So, I was talking to Tim earlier about the night you saved my life.
Yeah, I got to hear it. I want to hear it.
So you want the story?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to remember it.
It's the only reason I'm on here.
I don't know why.
When I stepped on the ice, I never backed down, and I never stayed down.
And I was vicious, and I was malicious, and I don't care.
I'm alive. He's a freaking madman. Look at him going to town. That'll be a suspension.
The Raw Knuckles podcast. Say hi to Tim Stapleton. He played with Ray Bourque over in Russia. Apparently,
I know Tim.
Yeah.
Apparently,
how long have you known
me?
How long have you known Tim? Yeah.
I've known Tim a good, what do we say, about 2 years, Tim, huh?
He hired me, like
I've
a year
known
ago.
Tim longer than you.
Yeah.
How long ago was that, Tim? That was what, like
Kingston
7?
was probably, Kingston was like 2 years old.
Yeah, no, that was like Kingston was, 2 years old.
Maybe, yeah.
Well, apparently, Ray, in talking to your son Chris, when he was up here at the NHL draft, he said he was going to leave Russia, and then Stapes got traded to his team, and he said, I'm going to stay because Stapes made it fun. He said, I had a reason to stay now.
Chris,
he said
he made it fun for me, too. We had fun together. It was unfortunate, but,
All right, Sugar Ray.
Okay.
Well, let's get going here, Sugar Ray. Bubba Ray.
We actually had Thanksgiving together in Russia. We're looking for turkey everywhere, and we couldn't find anything. So we had to try to find the biggest chicken, and that was hard to find.
Yeah. Sugar Ray, Bubba Ray, welcome. Like I said, listen, Knuckles, I want to go back to your early days growing up in Montreal. And again, here I am, a kid from Boston, drafted by the Habs, a team you certainly grew up watching and loving. And me, you get drafted by the Bruins, a team I grew up watching and loving. How big a Habs fan were you growing up?
I was a huge Habs fan. I remember the first time I went to the Forum, my dad took me, and it was in the bleeding seats all the way up, watching the junior Canadians and Tardif, Houle, and Bouchard, and all those guys. And the Forum was packed. I mean, it was, the junior Canadians, that was my first experience in the Forum. And I didn't get to go to see many games. But Wednesday nights and Saturday nights, Hockey Night in Canada, Saturday and Wednesdays, we'd get to watch some games on TV, and I watched it all the time. And watching them through the years. And then when I was a certain age, old enough to kind of celebrate their Stanley Cups with my buddies, we'd end up going to the parades downtown. We'd miss school and be about 4 or 5 of us. We'd take the bus and the metro and go downtown and be in the streets cheering you guys on. Those, what was it, 4 or 5 cups in a row?
Yeah.
The late 70s, and I wasn't, I went to Boston in, 79, 80. So I'm talking 76, 77. And just being a huge fan till the end, till I went to Boston. I played hockey. When I had my Hall of Fame speech, I thanked the Montreal Canadiens for making a young guy dream about playing in the NHL someday. And I was very spoiled as a kid growing up, watching a great team, and just players just kept coming, and it was such how tough it was to crack that lineup, regardless of how good or where you were drafted by the Canadians, because of the depth and the players that they had coming every year. So with that, they were so much better than pretty much 90% of the teams in the NHL. And for a kid, it was great growing up in Montreal, and not only watching the Canadiens and being a fan, but also being able to skate all winter long outdoors. Every street corner had a rink, had a baseball field, had a park, and every park had a hockey rink and another little rink just for free skating. So all winter long, you'd meet up with your buddies every day, and after school, and obviously after homework, right? Yeah.
How was it for you? Like, I go back to the first time I skated. Like, I know I live here now. I know that I got a rink right up the end of the street. It freezes early and it stays late. It's awesome. There's lights at night. You can skate. And I see why hockey is so big in Canada, because kids are out there all the time. They can skate. We don't have that in the States. Minnesota may be the closest thing. The first time I ever skated, my father took me. I was 5 years old, and he took me on in West Roxbury, in a parking lot. There was a huge puddle in the parking lot, and it froze. And that was the first time I ever skated. I always say the puddle. I remember the puddle. I actually had a painting of it made for my dad, because my mom was there, my siblings, blah, blah, blah. What was the first time you ever stepped on the ice? Do you remember it?
Yeah, for me, I lived in Saint Laurent on a street called Crevier Street. It was just blocks after blocks of apartments, and there was an open area right across from our apartment that in the summer you could play baseball if you're a young kid, and in the winter they'd put little boards up where, that's where I started to skate. And my dad was in charge of the lights. They had one pole with two sets of lights facing one way and the other two facing the other way, and my dad was in charge of opening and closing the lights every night during the winter. So all I would do is put my skates on in the apartment and walk across the street and skate. And I was probably 4 or 5 years old doing that. So that's where it all started for me. And then when I got a little older, probably about a half mile from my house, there was a park that had the bigger rinks with boards, and you know how it's set up in Montreal.
Yeah.
You have blue lines, you have a red line, you have nets, you have big mesh behind the net over the boards, and we had penalty box and 2 benches, and that's where I started to play on a team. The Termites, it was called, and I remember my first coach was a woman. Way back, so we're talking,
before
64, 65, before, women ever involved in hockey. And it's weird. I don't know how that happened, but I just remembered, playing Termites, and this woman was coaching us. And I just remembered, one of my, to this day, he's still one of my best friends, where I met him playing on that team. And we were the only 2 guys that scored goals for our team, other than one other person that might have scored 1 goal. So
Is that your pal in New Brunswick?
No, that's my buddy Sylvain Jarry in Montreal. And then Alain, and actually I just visited Alain in Fredericton this past weekend. I surprised them with my wife and I and another couple. We hadn't seen each other in almost 3 years because of COVID. And we decided, I fixed it up with his girlfriend to go up there and surprise him. And
That's
we
awesome.
had an incredible weekend. So we had fun, played 2 good rounds of golf in Freddie Beach, and came back on Sunday. So that was a lot of fun. And Alain, I actually met Alain when I was probably nine years old. But to this day, those 2 guys are my best friends from home, including Ben, my buddy Ben. That was my high school gym teacher that ended up training me from the age of 16 years old till the day I retired. And he's like Rocky's trainer, like Mick. That's what stuff looks like. So he was a very special guy in my life. So those 3 guys are probably my core guys from my childhood.
Now, God, I have an enormous amount of respect for you. I always have. Certainly as an opponent and as a teammate, even more so. But going back
just
to the
just because of that one night, that would do it all.
no, not that one night. And we'll get there. We're going to talk about that one night, how you saved my life, right? And you did. I almost drowned. But I want to go back to them early years, and you're growing up, you're playing organized hockey. 12 years old, the unthinkable happens, and you lose your mom. And she passed from cancer. And how difficult was that on you as a young boy to get through that? And was hockey kind of an escape for you at that time?
Yeah, sports was a big escape. I was always one. I mean, it's so hard. I mean, my mom was sick for a long time, and I think my older siblings and obviously my dad and my mom's friends and all that stuff knew how serious and how sick she was for, all those years. But when you're a kid, me and my brother were the only ones left at home at that time, and he was 9. I just turned 12, and you always think your mom's going to get better, and then at the end, people are starting to come visit her at the house, and because she can't get out of bed, and she's not doing that well, and then they're whispering about how wow, how she looks and everything, but still you're a kid, and you're always optimistic, and you're hoping that things are going to get better and all that, and obviously they didn't. She died in 1972. I think it was in February, and it was very hard. But I was always one to kind of look ahead, and my glass was always half full from a young age. And I look back on all this, and my younger brother maybe not so much as me, and so I moved. I moved on, and it was hard, but sports obviously was a big escape, I think, for all of us. And when it comes down to pretty much anything in our lives, I think sports is a big escape, and that's where we feel the most comfortable. I was a very good baseball player, and that's what I did all summer long. And then hockey, obviously, I was always a really good player, and started to separate myself from others probably at the age of 13, going forward and stuff like that. But that's where I felt the most comfortable. I was always a very shy kid, quiet, well behaved, and maybe a silent killer in some ways. My closest friends, knew what I was all about, and I could be funny, and I could be silly, and I could be all those things, but you would never know that other than if you were one of my very close friends.
Close, yeah.
I didn't really open up to all that many people, and but in hockey, that's where I let it all out. In sports, that's where I felt the most comfortable. Once you open those doors and let me out on the ice or on the field, I excelled, and I loved it, and I was very passionate and very competitive. In what I did in those departments. So I was shy. I was quiet till, the first year in Boston, I got to Boston, and it was like Peter McNabb to this day still tells people that I didn't speak English. And it's not that I grew up speaking both languages. My first friends were English. My parents were from the Maritimes, spoke both languages.
Yeah.
They had a whole bunch of friends, English friends. The TV was always in English. I went to French school, but it's not that I didn't speak English. I didn't speak. I just listened and watched, and whenever asked, I just say, I'm just happy to be here. And that was the case.
Who were some of your childhood heroes, athletes that you looked up to? Hockey guys.
Well, for me, I was very lucky to watch some great players, and obviously when I was very young, I just remember stories about the Rocket. But for me, I saw Jean Beliveau play, his last, I'm not sure how many years, but the last part of his career. Guys like Jean Beliveau, Yvon Cornoyer, Jacques Lemaire, Then those great teams with Dryden and Lafleur and Schutt and Mahovlich and Gainey, and you just go up and down the list. And obviously for me, I was a defenseman. And then for me, it was Larry Robinson, Serge Savard, and Guy Lapointe, the big three. Those are pretty much the guys that I locked into and just love watching, and not so much try to emulate, but just they could play any game, emulate in ways where okay, they weren't one. There wasn't just one strength to their game. I mean, they could be very skilled, they could be very physical, they could be very responsible, and they were all those things very consistently in their careers. So for me, watching that kind of those three guys and trying to kind of be that type of player. So those are the guys I kind of looked up to, and I mean to go along with all the other guys that came up through the ranks with the Canadians. And
well, those D-men that you mentioned, Ray, and you certainly did emulate them, and you did pick up something from all of them, no question about it, because certainly you had that all-around game, no question about it. But we go back, you drafted by Three Rivers, Bourque, the genius head coach and general manager, trade you to Sorel, and you have a hell of a junior career. And the 79 entry draft comes, and this is incredible how your life ends up, right? Where you end up in your life. And here it is. The Boston Bruins really want to take Keith Brown. Now, when I heard this the first time, I'm like scratching my head. Really? It's hard to really grasp that Harry Sinden wanted Keith Brown over you. Now, what? Keith was big. He was kind of solid player, but not close to what Ray Bourque ended up being. Now, Chicago takes Keith Brown, and they more or less had to settle for Ray Bourque. Boy, your life could have been a whole different thing, going to Chicago instead of Boston. And you end up in Boston, and the rest certainly is history. But did you ever talk to Harry about that? And did that ever come up in any of the conversations?
Yeah, I had lunch with Harry probably about 3 or 4 years ago. He's a member at the Bear Lakes in West Palm, and I had a fractional there, so whenever I'd be down, I'd play Bear Lakes and would have lunch or run into Harry, and all the GMs are all there, like Lou Nanny, Harry, Torrey was there, Francis. I mean, there must have been 5 or 6 of them, all members at the same place. So that the stories and everything that went on there. But yeah, I did speak to Harry about that and a few other things. But you know how that is. I mean, it's so hard to, and that's the year where it's
a crapshoot at times, right?
And that's
sometimes it's a crapshoot.
That's the year where the underage draft came back, where because of the merger in 1979, where 4 WHA teams, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Hartford, and Quebec, came into the NHL, and the draft wasn't until August 4th that year. And now you're picking an 18, 19-year-old kids, and now they were even drafting them earlier, 17 or 18-year-old kids. And you could only judge them against playing against, junior kids. And I mean, I've never seen Keith Brown play in juniors and all that, but he must have been dominant. If he was going 7th, he was going 8th. And if he was, so... And you just look at the top of that draft with Ramage and all the great players that were drafted, and you could make that argument in every draft you look back on, pretty much, how certain guys just kind of excelled maybe more than they were projected to, and that's why when I speak to kids or whatever like that, being drafted, where you're drafted, yeah, it's great, but that's the first step. That's the easy part. Then it's staying and earning your second contract and making a career of yourself, regardless if you're first overall or last pick of the draft. And, I look at guys like Andy Brickley or Louis Slager that were, I think one of them or maybe two of them were last pick of the draft and had great NHL careers. Or we could talk about Tom Brady, and where he was picked. So,
Yeah.
but regardless of where I was going to be picked, um, I just felt I was ready to make the step and to jump in and make an impact right off the bat. So, you talk about, being drafted and at Three Rivers and, going there and then getting that early experience about, being traded. I was 15 years old when I went to Three Rivers and, having an incredible first part of the year with Three Rivers, and we're in first place. And then January 8th, I had just turned 16 on December 28th, and Bergeron calls me into his office. I'm playing pool with some friends on a Saturday night at their house, and I get a call to meet him at the rink at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night. I'm thinking nothing of it. Get there, and he tells me I'm traded to the last place team, and I was crying like a baby, and I was like, I get to my billet's house that first night. Bergie brought me halfway to meet up with Rodrigue Lemoine, that was the owner, GM, and sometimes coach of the Sorel Blackhawks, because he fired his coach so often. And this guy was nuts. He was an intimidator and an alcoholic. And I swear to God, he picks me up that night with his coach. He could hardly walk or talk. And I'm like, okay. So then I go to my billet's house, and I'm rooming with two other guys. I'm in this single little bed that I have like 4 or 5 springs coming out and just pinching me all night long in my back. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here. And I actually, next day, that was the first year of midget AAA they created a new league for all the top players in midget hockey. And I practiced with Lac St. Louis all summer long. And I was going to be a big part of that team if I didn't make Three Rivers. So if I didn't make Three Rivers, I was coming back to play my last year midget. So I made the team, so I stayed in Three Rivers. But then when I got traded and going through this and then being in that bed and that billet, I was like, get me out of here. I called my dad the next day. I said, Dad, I want to go play midget AAA. I said, I'm not playing here. Going from the first place team, an incredible situation, a great billet, to going there, not knowing where I was going to be. So my dad, the voice of reason, he says, Ray, just give it a week. Hey, let's give it a week and let's talk and see how you feel at the end of that week. Well, a week later, they changed me in a really good billet. I'm with this teammate called Maurice Caillouette, and the billet family's awesome. The house is great. And my teammates are incredible. We're in last place, but we got a tough team and a lot of young guys. And Lucien Lavoie was my captain that took me under his wing and took great care of me. So at the end of that week, there was no question I was.
So then you end up in Verdun. You get 2 years in Verdun.
Yeah. Then the next year we moved in Verdun, and then the Canadians practiced there all the time. So I got front row seat a lot of times to watching them practice at the auditorium.
So
where we played.
2 years in Verdun, and in that draft year, you're in '79. You get drafted by the Bees. Okay, you leave in junior. I guess what I want to say. I remember coming. I'm 20 years old. My draft was the last year of the 20-year-old draft. And I was scared shit going to training camp, okay? And you're sitting here telling me, oh, I know I'm ready to play in the NHL. You're fucking 18 years old. You're a kid. Where does that freaking Listen, I get it. Talent, and you're talented. And you're always humble guy. I know that. But knowing in your own self, where does that confidence come from? Just from you on the ice knowing what you can do, and you can do it against men now. You were doing it against boys, a lot of young boys. Now you're playing against men. Where does that come from?
Well, I was
I
always
know that.
humble, and I was always humble. I was always humble to the end, because I thought if I wasn't, it was going to bite me in the ass so bad. I respected the game. I respected my teammates. I respected everything about the game. And I think I respected everything about the game. And that came with my preparation, how I prepared, how I worked out. And when I look back on my career, this is how I say it. And that's why I think I had the success I was. Obviously, I had talent, and I call myself a blue collar star because it wasn't flashy. It wasn't, yeah, the incredible nice play would happen every once in a while, but the subtle plays that you didn't see, and if you didn't know the game, you didn't realize how good I was. And and for me, it was always about looking for perfection. And it was looking for perfection. When I say my glass was half full, I was looking for perfection in a constructive way, not a destructive way, because so many guys are looking for perfections and they could never, because I knew I could never reach it. But just having that kind of mindset made you the best you could be every day. And how you trained, nobody's going to out train me. Like, I'm friggin' out, working out, doing my bike or my run or whatever. It could be pouring outside. It could be cold. It could be whatever. What I'm thinking about that day when I'm doing my workout, I'm like, yes, I've got to jump on somebody, because I know 90% of the guys would be in the house doing nothing right now with that weather. So that's my mindset about everything I was doing. I was looking for perfection, and how I practice. I went out, I was, I came in seeing, Tara Riley, and how the toughest, hardest working guy I've ever seen in my life was Tara Riley.
Yeah.
When I think about the Bruins and what a Bruin is all about, look him up in the dictionary. Boston Bruin is Tara Riley's picture, So I saw that from the beginning and all that. But I had a really good work ethic. But when you see that, and when you're surrounded by great players and good veterans, and they're showing you the way, but I had a lot of that in me, from the get go, and I was never satisfied. It was never good enough. It was never good enough. But again, it was always a constructive way. When I became captain, you saw it, you felt it, how I was with the team. It wasn't you or me or whatever.
Yeah.
It was us. It was always about the team in a constructive way. I would never embarrass anybody. If I had to go one on one with you, it wasn't a good sign, and that would be done on the side. It would never be done in front of anybody. So, as I can't believe what I came into. Like I said earlier, I was so shy, and on the ice, open that door, let me out, no problem. Leading by example was the biggest thing. That was so easy. But then all of a sudden, you fall into this leadership position, and then it's like, holy shit, I've got to talk to the team.
So some
What am I going
pressure
to
with
talk to?
that,
How am I
right,
going
for
to do
you?
this? How am I not going to stutter? How am I not going to,
Yeah,
I'm going
I
to
have
shit
to
my
talk.
pants. I mean, are you kidding me? But then, yeah, it's like, you know, um, yeah. So it was something that was really hard for me when I was asked to be captain and transition into that thing. And one of the good things that happened was, I always looked up to the older guys, and Rick Middleton was the elder guy on our team at that point. I had so much respect for Rick. I'm like, I can't be captain. Rick Middleton's on the team. And they're like, yeah, but I'm like, I don't know, guys. So then they say, well, what about if you guys are co-captains? And we are co-captains for 2.5 years, and it was a perfect way to kind of transition into that leadership role, to have Nifty and it's not just one guy
Never.
on a team. If you only have one guy as a leader on a team,
Yeah.
you're done. It's a handful of
Yeah.
guys, that you kind of lean on and you rely on, you talk to, and how we're going to address things and how we're going to come up with solutions. And you got to have a handful or six, 5, 6 guys leading the way, because then people follow. And your leaders have to be your best people in how they prepare, how they do everything. And if you have that, you're in business, because now it's a positive, constructive way to follow and to lead and to do your thing. And if you have that mindset, you're going to have success if you have a decent team. And you're going to have great chemistry, that is so important as well. So for me, that was my whole mindset that allowed me, not to go to big slumps or, you have your tough times, but that perseverance to find a way to get out of the shit that you have to deal with sometimes. Always believed in myself, even if sometimes, there's a couple of dark times where, people don't realize, but people that are close to you know. And you just find a way to kind of get through it. And those are the beliefs that you have, you fall back on, the fundamentals of the game, the fundamental thoughts that you have that made you and allowed you to have that kind of success.
Did you have any getting drafted by Boston? Was there any like additional emotion to that? Like, did you hate Boston growing up?
Well, I'll tell you a story about the 1979 semifinals where. Well, Max, you're I don't know if you're part of the Black Aces or what at that time. Did you get
my
some
first
games with
year
them?
was 79-80, and we lost to Minnesota that year in Game 7. They were going for 5 in a row.
Okay,
the year before. I didn't come my rookie year.
Okay, so you were Nova Scotia then, though, right? Okay, so I'm playing for the Verdun Blackhawks, and the Memorial Cup's in Verdun that year. So I go to the final game. That is the night of the 7th game.
Too many men on the ice.
The Bruins and Canadians, too many men on the ice. And, they're up Bruins are up 3-1 in the third period. Too many men. Guy Lafleur makes an incredible shot off the post, beats Gilles Gilbert and scores, and it goes into overtime, and Yvon Lambert puts it in with a pass from Tremblay going to the post and all that. So I'm in Verdun watching the Memorial Cup that night, watching the Brandon Wheat Kings, Brad McCrimmon's team, Prop, Allison, all those guys against the Peterborough Petes, that is Keith Crowder's team. That I say those names because we end up playing together in Boston. So I'm watching the finals. Brandon wins. So I'm on my way back. So I catch, the last part of the Montreal game too. But I'm taking the bus back to Saint Laurent now from Verdun because I don't have a license. I don't have a car. I don't drive. So I'm taking the bus, and it takes me right in front of the Forum. Atwater is one of my connections. So I get out of the bus, and I'm right in front of the Forum. I'm like, fucking right. We fucking beat the Bruins again. And, 3 months later, friggin' a month later, I'm going to Boston, right? And so
how
August
about the heartbreak for me?
The
heartbreak for me, right? Listen, I was.
Well, I don't know who you were.
I was drafted. I was still in college that year, but I was drafted 78, and I was still in college. I stayed that one more year. And I watched with my family in the backyard. I was fucking devastated when that fucking flying Frenchman come down the fucking wing. I hated him. They tied it, and then it's over. And I'm heartbroken again. Yeah. And you're happy as a pig in shit. But that changes pretty soon. Yeah. And we'll get into that.
At the draft. At the draft, it changes all right there. So and then so then it changes. Then I go to Boston, and I make the team, and. Then
Rookie of the year, Cal the trophy, right? First year.
Yeah, Rookie of the Year, first team All-Star, first non-goalie to do that, and
which is incredible. And you said you were ready for the NHL, and you fucking proved it.
I was ready. Yeah, I was ready. And then, then things go great, but. Then I got to play against Montreal and in the Forum. And whenever I play Montreal, I'm not playing my best because you know how it is. You put so much pressure on yourself, and you're playing at home in front of family, friends, and guys you watch, for 6-7 years that you looked up to. And so to kind of get used to, that kind of setting took a little bit of time. Plus, I'd go home in the summers every year then, and we could never beat Montreal in the summers. So my friends and everybody would give me a hard time, like, "Oh, what happened? If I can, you lost again, they beat you again," and blah. I'm like, yeah.
But Ray, before we get there, I want to go to that. And it did suck for you guys because, and listen, I'm on the other side of this, and I've seen it, and now I'm part of it, and I'm like, there's times I actually felt bad for some guys, and you're one of them, and O'Reilly was the other, because O'Reilly's a guy I fucking looked up to. I grew up loving that guy. Like you said, he's everything a Boston Bruin is. But all right, that being said, I want to go back to that second year, not because of what I did, but because of what happened to you. And it kind of fucking shook me. It shook your team, and I think it shook everybody in the building that night when you got coming on the ice and you got hit with a fucking slap shot in the head. Some idiot was on my team, was icing the puck and hit you right in the fucking eye.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it.
That was the third year because I remember. No, it was the second year.
Yeah,
sorry.
I thought it was your second.
Yeah. No, it was the third year because my wife was in Boston.
81, 82.
Yeah. It was 82, 83 because I got married in 82, June of 82. So last exhibition game in Montreal, we're on a power play, and there's a bad pass that are made out of our zone. So it's not an icing, but almost. So Robert Picard gets to the puck and slaps it down the ice, and I'm skating towards the bench, not even watching the play, and it catches me right up here, right under the helmet, and as I get hit, I'm almost at the bench. So now I'm leaning on the bench, and the trainer's got a rag that I'm bleeding. So then we go across the ice to the Montreal dressing room, and the doctor's stitching me up, and I'm touching my forehead, and I'm like, oh shit, this doesn't feel good.
Mush.
I feel an indentation, a whole indentation going down my friggin' forehead like Frankenstein or something like that. So he says, we'll send you to the hospital for x-rays. So I go for x-rays, and I have a fractured sinus. So my whole forehead here is crushed. So it's all in like little pieces. So the next morning I have surgery, and I stay in the hospital for 4 days at the Montreal General. And who comes to visit is Nux, comes to visit me a couple of times in the hospital in Montreal. So I never forgot that.
Of all
And
people,
actually,
you guys didn't know each other?
Honestly,
you didn't know each other?
We didn't know each other.
No, just playing against each other for that, 1 or 2 years there.
And for me,
but you showed, it was very classy and a really nice gesture on his part. And we sat and talked and hung out for a while, a couple of times. And you know what that made me think of, Nux, is were you playing with the Canadians? Yeah, you were, I think, when Jean Amel got the stick in front of our bench and was in a Mass General for a few days in Boston. And I went to visit Jean Amel because, I never forgot that gesture that Nux did with me. So,
and even though it was your hometown, for me, it was like when you got hit, I'm telling you, when the fucking whole building goes, like the whole building friggin' gasped because it was that loud. You could hear it.
It never went down, though.
You didn't go down. But honestly, like, I thought there's a chance. Here's Ray Bourque, this great young player, fucking rookie of the year, all this. And, his career could be over. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. When I come in the hospital and looked at you, I'm like, fuck, look.
Yeah, it was pretty banged up.
It didn't look good. Anyway, so we do that.
But that was 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That was only 6 weeks.
That would put a fucking baseball player out for the season, no question about it. But so that whole Boston experience, and we'll talk. But like I said, during those years, those 90s, and beating the Bruins and always getting in line, and I remember getting in line. And believe me, I'd rather be on the winning end, but there were times I'd go through that line, shake your hand, and shake Terry's when he was in it. And he, I could see the fucking pain and the agony, like, again, these fucking assholes. But a lot of times, if we can be fair here, did you feel like your team at times overdid the fucking rough, tough thing and kind of got themselves in trouble, penalty-wise?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, but, that was our identity, I mean, if we didn't play that way, you know what a Bruin is.
Yeah.
I mean, and hey, we finally, possibly, got more discipline in 87, 88, in in that playoff series to go along with having a good team, to kind of crack that bubble finally, but I always felt that we overachieved, as a
Yeah.
team. I felt like we were one or two players away from being, so competitive and being better and really having a great opportunity to compete for a cup. And it never happened. And, we got to the finals in 88 and, we match up to Edmonton and no contest,
Yeah.
but then in 90, Gretzky's not there. We have a different team. We pick up a couple of guys that I thought that year we were ready to really compete, and it was so disappointing in both finals that we didn't even come close. We won one game in two finals, so that was very disappointing. But going back to your point, somewhat yes, but I think if we didn't play that way, you know how it was to come into the Garden.
It's
I mean, you have to be ready to play,
fucking right. You
And
do.
how many teams were, tough enough or brave enough to go out and play and do what they needed to do to beat us in that building? And so,
Yeah.
No,
I hear you. I hear
it's a
you.
fine line. It's a fine line,
It is, and I know that, right?
But the identity was, the it wasn't so big bad Bruins as things kind of evolved and went on, but still, you still kind of look at the Bruins as there's got to be some grit there, and and the big thing is we weren't going to be outworked or
Out
out
hit or
muscled
out
or
muscle.
out hit or and all that. So
Tim, you would have loved playing in the fucking Boston Garden. It was like a matchbox, right? You would have had no
Shooting
room
from
whatsoever.
everywhere.
No, incredible. Like it was a small rink. Have you think about with your talent, being a playmaker and all that? You didn't have a whole lot of fucking time when you got the puck. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, I
you have to be
would have
quick
been pretty good.
and really good vision.
Uh,
Yeah. But Knox, you say those lines, just going through there all the time and being from Montreal, the guys were, I always remember Larry just grabbing me and, being a fellow defenseman and getting to play with him in the Canada Cup and getting to know him and how great a guy and teammate and leader he is, and just him just grabbing me and in the line and giving me a little extra, talk. And then I just remember going through the line in 2001, where I was finally on the winning side.
yeah.
How that was a funny chat. It was more or less like finally,
Well,
you know.
I guess finally, and I wanted to get into that whole thing. You're in Boston all those years, and you said it just here. Do you think? And listen, Harry was perceived to be by the other owners and general managers as fiscally responsible. I think by the players' stance, he was kind of cheap. Now, and you being there all them years, and we always felt like, yeah, if they had another player or two, especially back on, maybe one back on D to take a little heat off of you, and then up front also, it seemed like he never wanted to spend the money to get over the hump. They're always just getting by, like scraping by, instead of really going for it. Did you feel that in your career?
Oh yeah, no, we all felt it,
Yeah.
and Harry. I thought Harry. I have a lot of respect for Harry. I think he was an incredible GM, and how he was always competitive. But then again, I think if you ask him, yeah, he could have. We've talked about this too, and a player away or when the Bruins had a party when they won in 2011,
Yeah.
and I was invited. It was for all the workers that worked inside the Garden and all that. And the cup was there, and Dale Hamilton was there, and
Yeah.
Mary and Harry and all that stuff. And so I got to chat with Harry, and I knew exactly how it was going to be if the Bruins ever won the cup. Because after living in Colorado and seeing the parade and the celebration and the parties with the cup and just the fun with the guys and everything, and how the town, was going to go crazy, and it was exactly what I thought, or if not more. They broke record numbers for crowds going to the parade, and I knew, and I was like Harry and talking to Harry that night when at that party, and it's like, fuck, Harry, the one thing I just wish I got to live this, just once in Boston, and he says, you know what, Ray, he says, that's on me, and
That's incredible. For him, and again, stand-up guy always, he has been.
Yeah.
But for him to say that, I think, that's incredible. It says a lot about him as a human being, as a man, no question about it. So, we go through that whole thing, Boston. Some of the guys in the league weren't happy because you kept settling for less money. They wanted you to push the fucking envelope.
I went to arbitration. Arbitration.
I know you did.
That's why I went to arbitration. And what I was going to say with Harry. So Harry was good and all that, and he had ways to put teams together and being responsible and all that. But then once the salaries start, Harry could not accept a new NHL.
Right, he couldn't.
He always said that it was going to ruin the league. It's going to put the league out of business. He could not accept what he was seeing being done. And I paid the price for that.
Yeah.
And you know what? And Harry was smart. He always came to me early in my contracts. Before my contract was done, he'd come to me and something would look good, for a year or two. But then it was like, once it started changing, guys were blowing by me like friggin', like the Autobahn,
Yeah.
And it was crazy. And then it was like, hey, okay, this is enough. I went to arbitration and then still got screwed in arbitration. Asking for $4 million, being a franchise player. I walked out of that place. Their guy was Bertucci, that just friggin' was amazing. My guy was fine, but he got blown out of the water. He made me feel when I walked out of there is, oh my God.
Like you're a shitty player?
Am I just an
and you don't deserve
player? It? Yeah. So I'm asking for $4 million. Would have settled for $3 million. And then the arbitration, the Bruins are offering 1.7. The arbitrator gives me 2.25. And I hear this the night before opening night at Madison Square Garden against the Rangers. So before I put $1,000 on the board. Then I get a call from my agent just before warm up. I go get the call and he tells me, I'm like, okay. So then, go in the room, say, hey guys.
And what was the most you made with the Bruins the final year?
$6 million.
So you finally.
But to get that, I was making $4. I was making right around $4, and then guys are making now $6 and whatever.
Yeah.
So I told my agent, I said, I've had it. I said, I'm going to talk to the Bruins myself.
Was that in 2000 before you got moved?
That was 90, maybe 98, 99, 2000. Yeah. So this was before the season. 98, 99. Yeah, before the 98 season. And Michael Connell and Harry send in, and I'm like, just more or less, we were going to talk about a long-term. They thought we were talking about a long-term post-career contract, and they're throwing stuff out there. I'm like, oh my fuck. All right. And I said no. I said, so I get up and I'm almost in tears now when I'm telling them that, hey, I've had it. I mean, what I've done, how I've done it.
You're there 20 years.
The guys that are making this and that, and some guys can't even friggin' hold my jockstrap. And I said, I've had it. I'm done. I said, if I don't get $10 million over the next 2 years, so I'm done. I've had it. I mean, you could pay me $1 million this year and 9 the next. You could pay me. You could split it up any which way you want. If I don't get $10 million over the next 2 years,
So
I've had it.
So you say you've had it, and what happens? And how does a trade
So
come about?
Harry's there, and it's like took him about 5 minutes, and he said, "Yeah, I think we could do that." I'm like, "You're fucking kidding me?"
Prick. So those last 2 years in Boston, 98, you make the 10 million, finally get paid some dough.
I make four, and then I make six, and then I sign. Then I get another 2 years at 6 with Colorado. I only wanted 1 year. I left $6 million.
But how's that come about? You're not in the playoffs in 99, 2000. Things aren't looking good for the team. Do you go and say, Harry, listen, I want a chance at winning the cup? Is that what happened?
Well, the first time we didn't make the playoffs, I almost asked to be traded. I knew Detroit was very interested, and a team should never be that bad in Boston.
Yeah.
And we were really bad. And I talked to my family and my wife, and she was all in. And then it comes to crunch time, and I'm like, Chris, you ready? Like, I'm thinking about doing this seriously. Then she goes, I'm like, okay.
She does not want to leave.
So I'm like, okay, I got it. So I don't do it. I don't do nothing. And then we kind of get good again. We make the playoffs. We get guys, Tim Taylor. We get probably a handful of guys. Pat Burns comes and coach, and we kind of revive the situation for a couple of years. And then we get bad again. Now it's like, it's just cancer. Guys, not, just a team that, oh man, it's separated where I can't do nothing about it. I can't, all kinds of shit going on, and we're not good. We're just not good, And now I'm like, hey, and I'm 38 years old, and I'm going to the rink, and, knocks me at the rink. I was like, I brought energy. Yeah. I had fun, and it was always, let's go, come on. And then it was just like, I couldn't, the energy and the passion, and it was like, it was eating me up, bringing it home, just miserable and just not having any kind of fun. That, that's not me. So
you go in to see him.
So I talked again.
And did you have one or two teams you're looking at?
Again, how's that? Again, I talked, to my wife, and now she's all in. Now there's no doubt. It's like she's pissed, I'm pissed, and it's like, and you know what? I'm 38, and it's like, yeah, it might be the end. Maybe it's just friggin' I'm starting to suck. And
it's going to be like one of those Marcel Dion things.
Yeah, I don't want
great career.
Yeah.
But everybody says, oh, well, he had a great career, but.
Oh, it's always but. And that but just burned my butt so much. It's so bullshit. I mean, so many great players, have not won the cup, and it's so much more to do other than them,
But it's unfortunate, but that's what it is, right? That's what people do. They say, but
then I want to leave for two reasons: is to get in this a competitive situation, and also to see if, hey, do I have anything left in the tank if I get into a better situation? So I remember Christopher was he was going to Governor Dummer for an interview to go there, because my daughter was already going there, and we were in the middle of the interview. I had left Harry a message. He was at the GM's meetings in Florida, and I had left him a message to call me, that I needed to talk to him. So in the middle of that meeting, he calls me. So I step out for about 10 minutes, and I'm like, guys, I got to take this call. And I tell Harry, I mean, the situation. We suck, and I'm sucking too. And I want to go somewhere where, a healthy situation and a team that has a chance to win the cup. And, and I don't want to go out west. I want to stay in the Eastern Conference. I'm in the middle of building our dream house in Topsfield, and, and I want to be able to come back when the schedule would allow me to do that, to see the family and see the project and all that stuff. And when I look at the Eastern Conference, Harry, I want to go to Philly. I want to go to Philly. That's where I want to go. So, okay, Ray says, I understand. And I'm at the meetings and I'm going to start talking to people. And I knew Reggie Lemlin was a goalie coach for Philly. So, and he was in with Clarkey. And he told Clarkey, hey, Ray asked to go to Philly, and that's where he wants to go. And now Clarkey wants me. And he's making a big pitch and everything. And I'm hearing everything on their side, what's going on. And then, Harry's like, yeah, then I hear, Detroit, St. Louis, New Jersey are in the mix. And I get a call from Dave Ellett that's in St. Louis asking me if I'd go to St. Louis. I'm like, no, I'm not going to St. Louis. Then I get a call from I'm having dinner one night with my agent and Steve Casper and his wife and our wives. And René Angelil calls me, Celine Dion's husband, and he's best friends with Pierre Lacroix, the GM. So he says, hey, Ray Ramon, how are you? This is René Angelil. Do you remember me? We played golf together that one time there. He says, I hear that you might be traded, and Pierre does not know I'm calling you. I'm just heard this, and I'm just saying that Colorado would be a really, really good place for you. And Pierre doesn't know I'm making this call, but I think that would be the place with you and Pierre and all those guys. Okay, Renee, I said, hey. I said, thanks. I don't know where I'm going. You say, hope to see you again sometime and say hi to Celine.
You sound just like him. It's unbelievable. Awesome impression.
I knew Colorado was in the mix, and Pierre, gave him the friggin' number to call me and everything. So, then, we're playing Philly, a Saturday afternoon game. Reggie's telling me now, the morning of the game, he says, Ray, it's a done deal. He says, you're coming with us after the game. I'm like, great. So now I go to the game. I'm on, last game and my last shift. I'm on the ice and the puck's just trickling to me. And so the buzzer goes. I pick up the puck. I go see the guys. Then I go in the room and now I'm waiting and I'm like, okay, where the fuck are you, Harry? I'm like, come on, Harry. And then nothing. That the press is in my friggin' face. Hey, Ray, you're hearing this, I hear that. Hey, guys, I can't say nothing. I don't know nothing. And, if anything ever happens, we'll talk.
So you don't go.
So now, nothing. Now I'm calling Harry. I go up to his office. He's not there. I'm calling him, leaving a message. I'm like, Reg, what the fuck? He says, I don't know. It's supposed to be a done deal. I'm like, well, I heard nothing. Harry finally calls me Saturday night, and he says, I said, Harry, what's going on? He says, you know where I want to go? He says, well, Ray, he says, there's other teams in the mix. I'm like, you know where I want to go? He says, yeah, but...
He's going to do the best thing for Boston, right?
I know that, but there's other teams in the mix. He says, stay home. Don't come to practice tomorrow and Sunday. And if it's not done tomorrow, it says, don't come to the rink on Monday. We're playing Ottawa Senators. So I don't come in. Nothing's done. Now, Harry, fuck. I'm like, now my wife's looking at the Detroit schedule, the Colorado schedule, the St. Louis schedule, New Jersey schedule, Philly schedule, just to see, what's the rest of the season like and, for visits or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Patrick calls me, says, hey, the guru, come on. Hey, you're gonna have to come to Colorado. And then I'm like, Pat, I said, that's not where I want to go. I said, I don't know where I'm going. I said, we'll see. So then, Monday comes around, nothing. Now I'm watching the game and about to watch the game, and Dave Andrewchuk calls me. He says, Ray, he says, they just pulled me off the ice in warm up. I said, they didn't tell me anything, but I think wherever you're going, I'm going. I'm like, well, I have no clue. I said, I don't know what's going on. He says, we'll see. So then Harry calls me at the end of the third period, and he says, you just made the trade. You're going to Colorado. I'm like, okay. So
Now, listen, you're happy you got traded, but are you really happy going to Colorado?
I mean, out of all teams, if I was going to go out west, I think Colorado's a team. I never played with so many French guys in my life, even growing up in Montreal. And the whole organization, and I knew a lot of guys. So for that, it was good. So then, Pierre calls me and welcomes me and tells me, we're going to send a plane out for you and Dave. Dave Andrewchuk came with me. It was for me and Dave. He says, plane's going to pick you up. You're going to fly out at 7 o'clock. They're playing the next night in Calgary. So then I'm like, okay. And then, set up a press conference at 6:30 at Logan Airport the next morning. And then, Patrick calls me from Calgary, and he has Dave Reed in the room, Sean Podine, Joe Sakic, and Adam Foote, and they're all passing the phone around, and fucking right, this could be great.
Welcome.
And it's like,
come on, let's go.
Come on, get your ass here. Let's go. We gotta go here. And it's like, so it was, But the next morning, we're in this. Dave and I have all our shit. We're our equipment, our sticks, our luggage, and all this stuff, and it's like a friggin' little jet, and this is all stuck, and we're in the back seat, and Dave's 6'4", I'm 6, but okay, 5'11", 3/4, but he's crunched in the back, and now we're flying to Calgary. We stop in Kansas City to gas up, and then we go to Denver, and oh my God, press conference. A little bite to eat, friggin' half-hour nap, and I had to go to I went to the rink. It must have been 4 o'clock. Walk in that dressing room in Calgary, and my jersey's right there as you walk in.
Had to feel weird. Feel weird.
Yeah, this is different. So it didn't take long. First period, I just remember stepping out from behind the net, and Haydu comes across the ice a little bit in our zone and just finds that little gap. I fire a pass right on the stick. He fires one to Joe that's up across the blue line, goes in on a breakaway and scores. And I'm like, yeah, I think this is going to see.
Yeah.
And then just watch.
Well, it ends up being fun,
Forsberg,
right?
Yeah, Forsberg, Sakic, Drury, Haydu, Tanguay. I mean, it was.
So you finished that season out, right? 14 games, and then you come back, and it's funny, Ray, and I gotta say this because you're always fucking on the ice, a ton of ice time all the time, and we always hear people say, and you heard the announcers talking about, well, Ray's older now, we gotta, you gotta settle him down, you can't play him as much, you gotta, watch him. I watched you right to the end there, in that last game 7. And fucking, they did not take the foot off the pedal on you at all. It's like, and it's funny, coaches get in that situation, right? I think. And they look down the bench. Oh, okay, now we got to kill a penalty. Well, we like to rest Ray, but we can't. No, the power play comes. We like to rest Ray, but we can't. You got no rest.
I averaged the most minutes played out of anybody in my last year at 40 years old in the NHL. I was 27 something, crazy. I think, but they couldn't, Nux. They couldn't. I wouldn't let them. I wouldn't allow it. And that's why I didn't go back the next year. I had another $6 million after I won the Cup. I had another year. I asked for a 1-year deal with Pierre. He gave me a 2-year deal. I said, give me another year at $6 million. He says, no, I'm going to give you the first year at $5 million and $6 million the second year. And if you don't play, I'll give you $1 million. I'm like, okay, there we go. But I had no intentions. My wife, I told her, I said, this is it. Regardless, win or lose, this is it. And
Not many guys play their last game and walk off the ice at a Stanley Cup. I'm so happy it happened for you, honestly. And then coming back to Boston, what's that like? You get 20,000 people fucking show up. I mean, that shows you what Boston's all about and their affinity for you and their love for Ray Bourque.
Yeah, well, I came back the first year after losing Game 7 to Dallas, and I remember just coming back where everybody I'm running into saying, "Oh my God, we had a blast watching you. We followed you out there. You kept us up late at night, but oh my God, that was awesome." And then coming back after winning the cup was even crazier. And the mayor wants to have a celebration in Boston, wants me to bring the cup back in Boston. My agent, Steve Fryer, I'm like, "Are you crazy?" I said, "I'm not doing that." I said, "I don't want to embarrass the Bruins."
It was kind of like sticking it in their face, right? Did they feel that way?
He said, "Yeah, well, no." He says, "What about if the Bruins sign off on it?" I'm like, "That would be the only way I'd do it." So he calls the Bruins. Michael Connell says, "Yeah, we don't have a problem with it." So I do it. Then I hear Harry's friggin' super pissed. Yeah, Mike said okay, but Harry was friggin' bullshit. But 10,000 people showed up, and nobody's welcome back like that, And it's just the relationship and the respect I think we had for each other. The fans realized the situation, knew why I left. I always said I would never leave. I never thought I would leave, and I wasn't going to leave for a cup, but I had to leave to see if what I had left, and by doing that, you want to get in a healthy situation and compete again. It had been, 10 years. Well, we had some success there early 90s where we get to the semifinals or a couple of rounds or whatever, but it had been 7 years, 6, 7, 8 years.
You got it done. You got it done, Raymond. The name is on there.
Incredible feeling. And
the name that was missing is on there. That's awesome stuff. Yeah. So, I was talking to Tim earlier about the night you saved my life.
Yeah, I got to hear it. I want to hear it.
So you want the story?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
Okay.
I want to remember it.
It's the only reason I'm on here.
I don't know why.
So we at that time we're not going too good, and Knox is, there's stuff happening with the lineup, and we're in San Jose, and I think this is the first time you're a healthy scratch, right?
Yep.
In your career.
Yeah.
So we're playing in San Jose, and we're staying in San Francisco, and the night before, the Friday night, we go out for dinner, a good bunch of us, and then we go to this Blues for a couple of drinks after dinner, and this place is a phenomenal place, and we end up leaving, but I'll tell you, it was so hard to leave and to come in for curfew because the place and the atmosphere and the fun that we were having. So we go back, and then the next day, we go to practice, and, then Knox is out of the lineup. And, we play San Jose, and I think we won the game. They were awful, I think, back then. But Knox starts drinking, like, I don't know if it was before the game, but all game long. And he comes in the room afterwards, and he's well on his way. I'm like, fuck, Knox, what's going on? Fuck them, fucking Milbury, and Jesus, Jeff, I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kick the shit out of him. And so I'm like, all right, let's go. Come on, we're gonna go out. So we go out, a good bunch of us. We go to this bar in San Fran, and I don't even think we ate, because after the bar, I had everybody come back to my room. We ordered pizza and drank some more, and it was like late. And so Knox, it's time to go to bed, Knox. So I bring him to his room, and he's struggling big time to walk. And I'm like, so I put him in bed, take all his clothes off, fold his clothes, put him in bed, and just, he's good to go. Okay, yeah. All right. So I go back up, see the boys, and I'm like, we're drinking, we're playing cards, and I'm like, fuck, I'm going to go check on Knox. So I go check on him. He's fucking passed out in the shower. The shower's friggin' coming on him. There's about 3-4 inches of water in the tub. And I'm like, what the fuck? Knox. Trying to wake him up. So get him out of the friggin' tub, friggin' wipe him down, put him back into bed. And like the next day, he says, what the fuck? What happened last night? I have no fucking clue. No, I'm not. It's like, so.
Oh, I'm telling you. I woke up in the morning. Everything's hung up.
I went to bed early.
Who did this? Like everything.
So then the next day, I'm not going to say the whole thing, but the next day there's, we have a day off in San Fran. So there's like 6 of us that go watch the 49ers against the Detroit Lions, and Sanders was playing with the Lions at the time. And some guys are going to see wineries. I think Nux was going to see wineries with a limo or something. Some other guys go boating. But we're all going to meet back at the Lou's Blues bar that we were in the Friday night. And there's more stories there that cannot be told.
That you don't even know. But I was dancing and I elbowed a few people.
Intentionally elbowed somebody.
Shocker.
Yeah, it was just an accident. It was a really good song.
It was a howl though. And hey, Tim, and funny too. And we didn't even touch on it, but I remember I come back. Here I am, get traded from the Rangers to the Bruins, and I come and, Ray. I remember before my first game, I was so friggin' nervous, Tim, that the Bruins fans, when I was in there with Montreal, everybody yelling, "Nyland sucks, Nyland sucks." So I'm nervous the first game coming out. I'm like, all right, they're going to accept me home. And Ray's there, Jesus Christ, what's wrong with you? Settle down. Come on, what's wrong with you? I mean, I feel like I don't know what's going to happen when I go out there. And Ray says, listen, they are going to welcome you like you don't know. And remember that night, how nervous I was, and you calmed me down, and you said you're like a fucking rookie again. Relax. And it was hilarious. And I come out, and I'm telling you, it felt good to be accepted by my people.
That's awesome.
It
was
so
cool.
Cool.
It would have been so much fun to see you play there longer and earlier.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It was definitely, it would have been a different thing altogether, for sure. But so good memories. I was mentioning to Tim too. Tell us about the play. Remember, Tim, every play, the Bruins had this thing, the beginning of the game. You win the face-off to Ray, and Ray takes a shot in that. That was a thing, right, Ray?
Well,
a lot of people didn't know that.
Yeah, so the play was, it was such a small building that, I scored from, the corner of the circle in our own end one time. It was a hell of a curveball and a jumper, but if the draw was one to me, it was two things. I'd shoot as hard as I could around the boards, and that right winger or left winger, whichever side I was playing, would right off the draw would just bang, go. And then we'd start a forecheck right off the bat. We'd pressure them early in the game and all that stuff. It was that, or if that shut down, I could drill it on the net from our blue line. So, and I'd tell the referee, I'm like, hey, be careful here. I said, I might be coming up the middle with this shot.
How long did you do that? How long did you do that for? Like a long time?
A long time. You know what? That would be a forecheck too. Sometimes I'd just rip it from our own blue line as I was exiting the zone and forward. And I love doing the scooper, the little scoop, have it jump off the ice and kind of have fun with it with the goalies. But once I went in Hartford against Hartford in our own rink, and I think you might have been around because it's a Rob Brown story. Nux.
Oh,
and it's not the brawl.
Remember
where
that?
Nux took part of his hair. He had the worst hairdo, and he's trying to have this long hair and kind of like comb over whatever. He
had plugs.
Nux
he had plugs.
They
were plugs.
Pulls a big batch of his hair out of his head. Puts it in the training room with that white tape and puts Brown's hair, and it was there for a month. I was there for
That
a
was
month.
fridge.
So
That was
anyways,
fridge.
I give one up against Hartford in their own end, and they score, and I come by the bench, and one guy that could get under my skin was Brown. He just friggin' had a way. He was a big mouth, and he just had a way to friggin' get under my skin. And
Yeah. I remember.
I don't
he's
even
the
know him
nicest
off
guy in
ice,
the world.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
You
met
know.
him. He's the nicest guy in the
So
world.
I go
You
by
wouldn't
their
believe
bench. He's like, yeah, fucking Ray Bourque, yeah, nice one, Bourque, you're fucking nice. You're so fucking. He's the only guy. He'd go in my face every game and come up to me like, you're so fucking overrated, Bourque. I'm like, what the fuck? Who are you? Come on. I'm like, fuck. So, anyways, right after that, we get a penalty, and now the puck's in our corner. Draws there. I'm like, I get it. I have a little time. And right on the face-off dot, no, the face-off is at the blue line outside our zone, comes back to me. I'm right by our face-off dot in our zone on the right side. And Whitmore's the goalie. And I slap one right down on net. And it's a curve ball. It's coming like this, and it curves, and it hits the ice and jumps over his shoulder. And it's like, so now I go by. I said, how'd you like that one, Brownie?
and it's so funny that Brown, you're right about him. I hated that kid. Everybody in the league did. I met him in Edmonton in retirement, and he come up to me and said, hey, Chris, Rob Brown. He was the nicest kid you ever met. I'm telling you. You would love this kid.
Yeah,
you hate him when you played against him, but you'd love him. I know you would.
Yeah, there's not many guys that you hate off the ice.
You know?
Even if you hated him on the ice, once you meet him,
yeah,
it's like it's like my
funny
rendezvous
stuff.
And 87, we go up. We play against the Red Army team 2 games, and the first night we're all there, and the players have meetings and dinner and meetings and all that stuff. So we're back in our room around 10:30, but the wives go out for dinner, and they come in at like 2 a.m. And my wife comes in, and says, "Oh, Remo! Oh my God! I met the nicest girl, and oh my God, we got to spend time with them." And I'm like, who are you talking about? Oh yeah, when we come back in the summer and all that. I said, who are you talking about? She said, oh, Claude Lemieux's wife. I'm like, oh my God. I said, that is not happening. That cannot happen. Yeah, Chris, I said,
we're hanging with Pepe.
There's no way that is going to happen. I can't do that. I said, there's no way. I said, hey, we all hate him, and he's a friggin' asshole. I don't like this. So end up meeting him in the summer, and then, becoming friends. But then I had a golf tournament in Montreal, and I had like 4 or 5 guys from Boston would come down. What the fuck is he doing here? I'm like, guys, no, he's okay. You got to know. He's like, I don't give a shit. I said, hey, what is he doing here? He can't fucking be here. Ray, what are you doing? And then after that, every time we play Montreal, we're playing your buddy tonight. Oh, what are you going to do with Claude after the game? So, Hey, guys, I got a tea time.
Oh. As most of you know, I'm a dog person. I have a Saint Bernard. Her name is Adele. Why do I feed Adele Formula Raw? Because I love her. I want to provide her with a healthy, well-balanced, locally sourced diet. A diet that consists of meat, chicken, fish, mixed with fruits and vegetables that her 140 pounds requires. I also feed her Formula Raw because it helps her overall energy, it helps her with allergies, and helps strengthen her overall immune system. Dimitri and Nick at Formula Raw have worked tirelessly over the last 10 years to perfect their recipe, and they've got it because you know how I know? Adele loves it. She never misses a meal, and she's a healthy, big, beautiful Saint Bernard. Hey everybody, thanks for listening to the Raw Knuckles podcast. We'd really appreciate it if you'd like, subscribe, and share with a friend.